Hey everybody, welcome back to FeedbackLoop. I'm Jeremy,
And I'm Joey.
and this is season 2, episode 15. I've abandoned the overall count. I'm not
Yeah,
even going to say that it's 111.
but you just did.
No, I didn't. I refuse to say it. Season 2, episode 15. We're back. I'm in Washington. For those who didn't listen to last week's, which is most of the world, but I guess that also presumes that you're listening to this one, and that's also
Yeah.
on. So yeah, I don't know, man. Last week you and I spoke a bit about happy warm music,
Yeah.
and on that you gave me a recommendation for hiking music. So we talked about music to listen to
Yeah.
while hiking.
hmm
So you recommended Mother Earth's Plantasia by More
hmm
Garden, and I listened to it while
Oh my
hiking.
god.
I went hiking, not this past weekend for us now, but the weekend before. Uh, Maybe it was during the week. I don't remember. I don't know. I went hiking. I put it on and I listened to it twice. Um, it was a bit short for the length of the hike that I was on, so I listened to
Yeah.
it once on the way out and then once on the way back, um, and then listened to some other stuff in the gaps or just didn't listen to music. But I think listening to music, as a side note, before I tell you what I feel about this album specifically, I think listening to music was a good experience for that hike specifically, and that it wasn't a very vista-y hike. Like a lot of hikes, you'll walk to an endpoint and then there's
Yeah.
the reward. There's like some big nice thing at the end to kind of see. This hike was less of that and more just kind of like a trail. I mean, it was still like gorgeous around the area, but it wasn't really like a super beautiful hiking area for me. So prefacing that with it, I think the music helped. I think it was just like it was nice to just kind of like vibe out to something new. Mother Earth's Plantasia, what a weird album, in a wild direction that took. Because it starts off in the first track, I think, with some very like cheesy '80s synth horns, which is
hmm
not at all what I would expect for music written for plants. Just like these really weird, like cheesy '80s synth horns through it. But it kind of develops a bit, and I feel like overall there was a lot of like video game inspiration, a lot of video game soundtrack inspiration in that album. Like there were some songs that felt like they were straight out of like Zelda or inspired by Zelda, and then there was one that I think reminded me a lot of like Donkey Kong Country, which is one of my favorite video game soundtracks. So overall, I think it was a good album. It was surprising. It was weird, and it was just it was. I don't know if I would consider it hiking music just because it was
Yeah.
like weird like chiptune video game music for a lot of it. But good rec. It was fun to
Eh.
listen to, and it caught me off guard when it started. So that's for that one.
See, that album, which, to your point about it sounding like video game music and very chiptune, that album, for all you people out there who are potentially going to listen to it, it was released in 1976. So it
Yeah,
was pretty ahead of its time, I'd say.
agreed. Agreed.
Um, but for me, that album was, I guess, for those Vista E hikes once I reached the destination. But to keep, I don't know, to keep everybody fully informed, previously in my life, whenever I would be going on those Vista E hikes, it was like you made it to a point, and then there was some sort of mind altering thing to be done at these vistas.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like then you're gonna listen to this crazy Plantasia album that's just like all sparkly and shiny and great. And maybe that informed my decision a little bit on how or my current perception on it even. Because I mean,
Right.
as we've talked about plenty on this podcast, past experiences can give you a lot of bias in what music that you fit into certain situations in the future.
For sure. But it was fun. It's a weird album. I recommend it if you guys are curious. Go listen to it. If you're into that kind of if what we have said sounds interesting at all to you, I would recommend checking it out. What else have you been listening to over the past fortnight?
I've been a bad music discoverer and mostly not discovering new music, but I've been rediscovering my love for previous music that I've listened to in the
That's
past, I
always fun.
guess. Like, I'm pretty sure I've talked about them before on the podcast, but this band Hum, they're like a '90s, I guess, slow rock band, and they had an album called "You'd Prefer an Astronaut" that I really liked,
Mm.
and I've been listening to that a lot. Which, whenever I listen to them, I feel like they fit into the same category that I guess I put Pile in my head. Like that's
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of like that's the style of music that I listened to whenever I found Pile. So I guess it's just like connected. And I hadn't listened to them in quite a while, maybe like a year and a half probably. And now I've been listening to them again. I've been listening to some of Dan Bateman from Frog, his other band Uncles. I've been listening to quite a bit of that, and a complete blast from the past that came at the request of my daughter.
Oh,
She's been getting more into music, and we bought Just Dance for the Switch.
that's
So
fun.
she's been hearing a bunch of like dancey music, and she discovered Lady Gaga, and and she's been listening to a lot of Born This Way, like the album. So I had listened to Born This Way and Fame Monster recently, all the way through several times, and that was just those albums are just such a moment in time,
Yeah.
especially Fame Monster. Like I feel like it's having lived through whenever that was huge. It just instantly takes me back. Like now I listen to it. If I heard it for the first time today, I feel like I'd think it was very dated,
Yeah.
especially some of the songs on Born This Way, like as EDM inspired as they seem to be, like Judas, for example. The chorus to Judas seems so like formulaic and like repeated from some of her other songs.
Yeah.
And like it's a good formula, but like you listen to it and that song specifically, I feel like I get tired listening to that song because I'm like, I feel like I've heard a different version of this song on this album
Right.
already.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever listened to a full Lady Gaga album. I think I tried to listen to Chromatica, which was her 2020 album,
Hmm.
I think, and I wasn't super into it. Obviously, that was like late in her. Not that her career's over. I don't
Yeah.
think it's over. I mean, she released an album 2 years ago, so yeah, whatever. But so the style is different, I guess, from the older stuff that I was more familiar with, like you said, Fame Monster and Born This Way. I don't think Born This Way, even though for me clicked. I mean, obviously, I haven't listened to the album, but like even the singles and stuff didn't really hit. The Fame Monster is really like
Yeah.
peak Gaga. I
Yeah.
think it's all of her good shit. So that's fun. I'm glad that Lorelai's getting into electronic music. That's fun. I'm sure that's rewarding as a parent too, to like
Yeah.
watch your child discover music, and obviously there's going to be at some point she will discover something, whatever the new pop trend is, and you're not going to like it at some point probably.
I'm gonna try my
So
hardest to. I hope
yeah,
I do.
I think that's the best. I think you specifically as a parent are probably in a good position to that because you're so open to music in general. But I feel like there's still going to hit a point where it's just like, oh, you dang youngsters and your kids music. I just don't
Kids these
understand it.
days.
Kids these days. But yeah, so I'm sure that's going to come at some point, and that'll be a fun, interesting thing to talk about if that happens. I suppose.
What have you been up to?
Musically, man, I've been a little all over the place. It seems. So quickly, Wubs. I've been listening to. I started playing Guild Wars again, and Guild Wars is an MMO, so it's good to throw on music while you're playing. And with playing a video game, my brain wants electronic music, and so I went through some like old Wubby dubstep album. They're not old albums; they were on my backlog. I had a backlog of electronic albums because I've just not really been in like a dubstep vibe lately. But I went through and I re-listened to Kill the Noise's new album that I actually talked about earlier this year, I think. And then I listened to Ghastly, who's an artist I hadn't heard of. His newest album, Alice in Wonderland's new album, Liquid Stranger's new album. Just a lot of like dubstep that's like modern and cool and stuff. So that was fun. It was refreshing because as I mentioned, I haven't really been in a dubstep mood, I suppose, lately, and I think there was part of me in the back of my mind going like, well, it all sounds the same, and you just don't like dubstep. You're starting to realize that it's not that great. And listening through all that stuff changed my mind. I was like, no, like that, get the fuck out of here. It's still cool. It's still
Yeah.
fun as hell to listen to. So that was fun. And then since I mentioned Guild Wars, I was actually talking to some Randys on Guild Wars the other night when I was playing, and I asked for recommendations for an album to listen to, and someone recommended some Russian synthwave album or artist named Bolchat Doma. I'm sure
What?
that's not how it's pronounced, but they're like, yeah, check out this like Russian synthwave album. So I did, and it was interesting. I don't know if it's for me. I listened to the whole thing. I didn't have any issues with it, other than it kind of all sounded like synthwave. I mean, it's synthwave with Russian vocals, and it
Yeah.
all kind of like it felt kind of one note for me. So that was a little bit of a miss, but it was fun getting a recommendation from some stranger that actually also lives around here ish, up here in the state of
Around.
Washington.
Oh, okay. I was about to say like.
Not in the town that I'm in, but there were like 2 or 3 people in this group that were all from the Pacific Northwest, and they were like giving me recommendations for things to do around here.
Hell
So that
yeah.
was fun. But outside of that, there were a couple of okay. So there's one other discovery, I guess, for me, and that is that I really like the band London Grammar, whom I had not.
London.
I think I had heard of, but never listened to London Grammar. And they came on one of my mixes, like an indie alternative mix that I had on, and it caught my ear, and so I went and listened to their album Californian Soil, which is a relatively new album, I think in the past like 3 years or so. Really enjoyed that album. It's got some cool like electronic indie rock vibes to it that it feels similar to me to like Florence and the Machine, and then kind of Metric for the kind of electronic stuff. So it was a good vibe for me, I think. So that was a fun discovery. And then also the last thing on my list was listening to Mothica. I think I'd mentioned her new album came
You
out
did.
this year. I don't know if you listened to it. I don't remember, but it was a pretty cool album. She actually just released an EP, I guess, to accompany it. So the album was called Nocturnal, and this new EP is called Nocturnal, and then in parentheses, lo-fi beats to fall asleep to. And she basically like remastered, re-edited, remixed her some of her Nocturnal songs, some of the bigger songs from Nocturnal, to have this kind of like lo-fi, chill, down-tuned, kind of wonky vibe, and it was really fun to kind of listen to someone basically covering or doing like a style parody of, or I guess not a style parody, it'd be the opposite, but just lo-fi versions of songs that I was already familiar with was kind of fun and unexpected. And I think it's a cool thing for an artist to do, is to like
Yeah.
release an album and then be like, here's also other versions of that songs in a slightly different like vibe. So that was kind of fun.
Man, I respect the hell out of that. That's like
Yeah.
a really cool idea, simply because as a person who tries to write music, I am constantly making revisions, and
Yeah.
there's a point usually when I'm writing a song that I'm like, I just want to release like not release, I'm not releasing music, what the fuck, but like in my head, in this scenario that I'm
Yeah.
building in my head,
Finishing.
yeah, I want to finish like 5 different versions of the same song,
Mm-hmm.
and then potentially, if I were to ever release music, I would release all of them. So that's just a cool idea.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Kaskade, which is a segue, Kaskade did that with
Hmm.
his album Fire and Ice. I feel like I've mentioned a couple times where there were like 10 12 songs, and he released it was a double album, but it was really just one album, kind of a thing where it was the Fire disc had the quote unquote finished or final versions of the songs, and then there was Ice, which was like a chill remix album of all of the same songs. So that was kind of a fun touch point. And I mentioned Cascade because coming up in the future, in the near future, they teased another song, KX5, which
With
is
Dead Mouse?
The
Is that?
Kaskade and Dead Mouse collab.
Oh, yeah.
They announced a show in Los Angeles, and with it, they teased that they're releasing another song that I think is supposed to come out in the next couple weeks. So I'm looking forward to that coming out the next couple weeks because obviously I like Cascade and I like Dead Mouse, and KX5 is just beautiful. The
Yeah.
idea of KX5 is beautiful. There's only one other song out right now, I think.
But whenever there's more, then it's just going to be this great thing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I want to see if they do an album. They might just keep it chill and just release singles as they make them. I'm not sure what either one of them is up to at this point. I'm not aware of if Cascade or Dead Mouse have albums coming up, or if they're just like behind the scenes just working on KX5 or
Yeah.
not. So looking forward to
Man,
being surprised by that.
yeah, that's going to be nice. Also, speaking of Cascade, which I didn't even think to put this to like write this down or anything, but you talking about Cascade made me think of it. Um, he had the Fire and Ice V3, right? That came out.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I guess that totally slipped my mind. There are three versions of those songs out now.
I listened to it and I really liked it. And I'd put it on in the background coming home from a long trip, like a little bit after it came out. I don't remember where we come. I think we were coming home from like a weekend hike or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But I put it on again, and Alyssa, who is normally at least somewhat critical of music that I put, me putting on music in the car has become a contentious topic amongst
yeah,
us.
yeah.
And she actually liked it. So that was cool. So
That's fun.
Cascade Fire and Ice V3 has another fan.
Hell yeah. I need to re-listen to that. It's been a minute since I've listened to it. I don't think I've listened to it since it came out. But big fan of those songs. I mean, obviously there's a nostalgia component there because I think the original album Fire and Ice was like 2011 ish, so it's aged,
Yeah.
but still has nostalgia for me. So a fresh take on those is always great. Coming up, also there are two big releases I think in this next fortnight. One of which is Buried Alive is dropping a new album this Friday. So I'm excited for that because I don't know, man. It gets me. It gets
Yeah.
me, and he's growing so much so quickly and like changing his style up. I listened to one of the singles from the new album. I think I've only listened to one of them. He's been releasing them like weekly, so I feel like half the album's been released. But I'm avoiding listening to them because I just want to like experience it in its
Yeah.
whole. And it's just like what I have heard is just like it's wild that he just keeps like not just improving as a guitarist, but like improving as a producer and altering his style and experimenting with a lot of new shit. Like it's just exciting and fun to listen to. So I'm excited for that coming up. The other big release, I think, What So Not actually has an album coming out in a couple weeks, and I think it'll be before we next record, but I'm not 100% on that. So I'm a fan of What So Not, electronic kind of vibey uh, music,
I feel
for
like I've
lack of a
only
better
ever
word.
I feel like I've only ever heard them featured on other artists' songs and never actually like fully, I guess,
Yeah,
their
well,
album.
so fun connection. This Saturday, I'm seeing Flume in Seattle.
Nice.
So that's gonna be fun. But What's So Not originally was Flume and Emo instead. It's IMOH. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it was a joint project between them back in the days. Like I think you've probably heard they did a remix of Get Free by Major Lazer.
That must be where it was stuck in my head. I
Yeah,
love that album.
yeah. So they were a duo, but at some point, Flume was like, I'm done with this. I don't want to be involved with this," and he's letting like emo instead run it. So I think that is his new like full time project or whatever, and he's put out a couple albums, at least one album, I think, just by himself, and it was very good. I really enjoyed it. So I have not heard anything about the new album from What So Not or any singles or anything other than the fact that I know that it's coming out. So I'm kind of interested to see how that goes.
Man, I wish I had I don't know, as many things to look forward to as you, because I don't. I mean,
Yeah, you don't typically keep up with like new releases, right? You just kind of let yourself wander, and what you find, you find. I am very much, for better or worse, I try to stay on top of things as they come
yeah.
out, which is very much a me thing, which it could be an issue. I don't know, but we're very opposite in that aspect, I guess.
There have been some things that I've been keeping up with, like something that I should have said. Uh, the Tallest Man on Earth has come out with like 3 or 4 new songs, and
Is there an album coming?
I'm thinking there is, but I guess maybe not. I don't know. I would assume so, but he did. I think it's his first full song. Well, I think it's a folk song, but it's entirely in Swedish. So
Oh, that's fun.
he's never done that before in his, like, at least in his Tallest Man on Earth style. Um, but also the Front Bottoms, they've been coming out with some new music. Well, some of it's old reworked music, but at least a new album full of music.
Right.
And also, I do have something,
What
because
is it? Lay it on us.
one of the bands that I've been listening to a lot lately is Two Door Cinema Club, which is a band that I used to rock back in the day. They just came out with a new album, and I haven't listened to it yet.
I saw that. I've not listened to Two Door Cinema Club much, but I'm aware of them. And it recently, just this past week, I guess their new album popped up, and I saw. I was like, I think I like that band, but
Yeah,
I'm not so sure. And I think I listened to like a song or two, and I wasn't really feeling it at the time, so I stopped. But yeah, this album cover is very familiar. So yeah, maybe I'll check that out as well. It's called Keep on Smiling.
yeah,
So
man.
that'll maybe be fun.
Their tourist
Also,
history album was so, like, it was seminal
what is
2012
on that?
me.
I feel like there's a song specifically by them that was
Uh,
probably in a video game.
Probably.
Let's see if I
Um,
can. Yeah, none of these are looking familiar. I don't
yeah.
know the song title. I feel like there was like a Need for Speed game that had one of their songs or something. That's probably where had listened to them or something. But yeah, that's fun. Also fun. We have a new gimmick that we're that we're gonna try out. Um, I should have teased this at the beginning of the episode, but I guess it's just a surprise reward for people that somehow made it through the past 20 minutes of us rambling about shit. We're going to be trying to have a little competition and instill some random music discovery within ourselves at the same time. So the theory is we go to a website that generates a random genre for us, and then we take that and run with it. And then the next episode will be sharing what we found. And then the week after that, we will be establishing a winner of the previous week's tasks based on, I guess, initially just our agreement between the two of us, which one's better. But in theory, if you're listening to this episode, leave a comment,
Yeah.
or I guess if you're listening to the next episode once we've revealed what we found, let us know which one of us you think found the better track or the better band or the more interesting find, and then it'll be kind of a community sourced winner as opposed
Yeah.
to just me and Joey saying no, I think I'm right, you're wrong, back
I'm
and forth
right.
forever. But yeah, so we generated. I found a generator from Chozic.com / random dash music dash genre, um, and it seems to have some depth to it. So the genre we pulled this week is deep gothic post punk.
Hell yeah.
So Joey and I will be over the next 2 weeks diving in to some extent to find some deep gothic post punk music to then share next episode with each other and with ourselves. And wait, I just said that. And with you all. My brain. We're
I
going to
mean,
share between ourselves and with ourselves,
yeah.
and between the two of us, and also us.
And
But
with you
no,
guys.
and the audience with you all, so you guys can tell us who did it better, who found cooler shit, and also do your own damn discovery. Let us know what we missed. and tell us some deep gothic post-punk recommendations.
Dude, I'm really excited for this. Deep gothic post-punk. I like post-punk. I like goth music.
Yeah,
Part of my favorite style that came out of like new wave in the like the 80s and stuff was like the really dark
yeah,
gothic sounding stuff that they did. And so maybe we just found a new genre that I'm gonna love.
yeah. There could be some really cool shit here, I think. So hopefully this will kind of spur us to do some more discovery instead of just kind of sticking in our wheelhouse and replaying old favorites like we're prone to do. So that's coming. Hopefully this new gimmick sticks. I think we're gonna make it stick, even if not just because it's fun. It's
Yeah.
a fun little element to add on. So again, leave comments next week. I mean, I guess listen to this. Listen, you can if you're going to participate in the discovery aspect. You guys feel free to listen to some deep gothic post punk this week, in the next 2 weeks, and then in 2 weeks we're going to be revealing what we found, our personal favorites, our personal picks, and then you guys can tell us who found a better pick, I suppose.
Yeah. Me.
Until
It'll
then,
be me.
it's probably going to be Joey, if we're just being honest here. But who knows? I mean, I feel like Joey's more likely to give up than I am to say, like, you know what, Jeremy, your track was better, because I'm gonna stick to my guns and I'm gonna defend my music unless you just completely outclass me. But yeah, so that's gonna come next episode. I think that covers all of my bullet points. So unless Joseph has anything to add,
I never do.
we need to find a way to end this show smoothly.
Yeah.
And we just can't. I don't stay in our feedback loop.
Bye.